Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the King Pocket Aces. I'm one of your hosts, Anthony Aniano, Pocket Aces, and joining me, as he always does, the king of fantasy sports, Mr. Scott Engel. Scott, it's been a while. Things got a little hectic, and we have not had the opportunity to talk NFL draft results and its fantasy football impact, and that's what we're going to be doing tonight. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, and already 2 rounds in a FFPC Superflex Dynasty draft where I am the returning champion, hence my Super Bowl gear, and it's like the NFL draft, in a Superflex Dynasty rookie draft. 4 of the first 5 picks were quarterbacks.
Interesting. In the full dynasty, 6 point or 4 point per touchdown.
It's 4 point per touchdown, but Superflex, in the NFL, they say, why are quarterbacks the highest paid guys? Well, not only are they the most important position on the field, they're scarce, and in Superflex, they're scarce, and but it's a lot of fun. Superflex Dynasty Best Ball. In fact, you go to rotobowler.ffpc, you can get a discount on your first FFPC team and jump into one of them of all price levels.
Yep, absolutely. And guys, head over to rotobowler.com right now. Sign up for a premium package: NFL, MLB, basketball, golf, PGA, NASCAR, MMA, esports, you name it. Rotobowler.com, the place for you to go. And sign up with the promotional code KING, telling them Scott sent you, or Aces telling them I sent you, and save a little bit of money there, whether it's DFS or season long. Take advantage of the great deals at rotobowler.com. And listen to myself, Scott, Raph, Josh, Mike Florio, 7 days a week on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, and all the great content right here on the Rotobowler YouTube channel. Scott, all right, so we're about a little bit over a week, about a week and a half now, after the NFL draft has come to an end, as the dust has settled. And what we're going to do today, segment 1, we'll talk some quarterbacks. I want to talk some running backs with you. We'll hit halftime. We'll come back. We'll talk wide receivers and tight ends. But let's start at the quarterback position. Now, you're doing it in the Superflex, so we'll get some insight there. But for the general purpose, we'll talk a 12-team standard. All right, and we'll start at the very top. All right, when you see the quarterbacks who go, Trevor Lawrence to the Jaguars, Zach Wilson to the Jets, no surprises there. Lance goes to the 49ers. Justin Fields, the big move by the Bears. Mac Jones to the Patriots. Those were the first-round picks. So let's start at the first 2 picks. Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, we pretty much know they're going to start from day one for their teams. Be a surprise if they didn't. 12-team redraft league, where do you value both of those players when you sit down, when you and I sit down and do our redrafts? Where should we value them?
I think Lawrence is probably a high-end, more of a mid-range quarterback too. Is mostly the most complete quarterback, in this class. Has all the right mechanics, makes all the right reads. He's mobile, etc. But you have to remember he's still a rookie quarterback. He's playing with a rookie coach. The wide receiver crew is kind of questionable. I think Joe Burrow had better weapons when he came in. So there's always the possibility he could be a QB1 as a rookie, and it wouldn't shock anybody. But I think you have to temper expectations and have him as a QB2 in a dynasty league. If it's a super flex, obviously he's a number 1 pick. If it's a one quarterback rookie draft, then I'd say he's probably more middle, late first round, etc. With Wilson, more limited college experience. He has a great skill set. He's mobile. I think some people worry a little bit about his durability. The receiving crew, I think they lack a true number 1 wide receiver. Maybe eventually that could be Denzel Mims. I don't think it's a great situation as a rookie. This is a rebuilding project. He's coming right in right away. To me, he's more of a low-end quarterback too. There's certainly more upside. In Dynasty, I have it Lawrence first. I have Fields second, and I have Lance third, and I probably have Wilson fourth. Although it's kind of a tie because I think that Wilson's probably going to be the better pro initially, but I like Lance better in the long term. Lance probably not figuring in for me as an option really in his rookie year, because we don't even know if he's going to start. I don't think I would draft him. Might end up as a free agent pickup later on.
Okay, so let's go back to Wilson for a quick second. You and I have full agreement on Trevor Lawrence. To me, he's a high end too, and I'm not as afraid of the wide receiver.
Middle range too.
Yeah, I like DJ Chalk though. I like the offensive pieces. Heck, Tim Tebow's a tight end now, but we won't even go down that road. Anyway, nonetheless, Wilson for the Jets for me, I can't do it. I'm not going to be drafting him at all, even as a QB2 in a 12 team. Let him get hot and let him be a waiver wire ad. I just think I could find a better veteran to potentially have as my second quarterback. Now, San Francisco, talk about veteran quarterbacks. Does the addition of Lance in San Francisco scare you away from potentially drafting Jimmy Garoppolo as a low-end QB2? Like, to you, are both of those quarterbacks, Lance and Garoppolo, off the board for you? Or are you confident Garoppolo will be useful in the right matchup as a second quarterback?
You know, we've seen Garoppolo in the past when he's been healthy. Sometimes he's mediocre, sometimes okay. Few games there statistically, he's spectacular. I'd probably rather have a different quarterback, number two. Trey Lance, to me, has a lot of upside over the long term. But again, you know, we're talking more limited college experience there. He has all the skills, but in terms of processing things and, you know, the game slowing down from at the NFL level, I think that's going to take time, man. You know, you know, I watched the film and the game's so much quicker at the pro level. I think it's going to be adjustment. Skill-wise, he fits everything Kyle Shanahan wants to do, but I don't know if he's plug and play right away. So, you know, it could be like a Mahomes thing where he sits for a year, etc.
Yeah. A true red shirt freshman season for some of these rookie quarterbacks is not necessarily a bad thing. You brought up Mahomes. We know what Aaron Rodgers went through, so forth and so on. But that now leaves
Kellen Mond not going to play for at least 2 years, maybe 3.
Right. Now, that leads us to Justin Fields, though, right? Bears trade up. Everybody, you know, the Bears had a crazy winter, spring, I should say, or postseason, right? Everybody, there was all that Russell Wilson talk that you went crazy about. It's not happening, and everybody heard you say that, right? And then they went out and they signed Andy Dalton, and they sent that tweet. He's our QB1. And my God, everybody who you asked gave the Bears the lowest of low off-season report card grades when after free agency. Well, to me, and I think maybe you agree to an extent, they made the move of the draft, and they went up and traded up with the Giants, and they got Fields. Are you willing to take Fields as a QB2, or do you need to see him beat out or eventually take over for Andy Dalton before he ends up on a redraft fantasy roster for you?
Dynasty League, he's my number 2 quarterback. Of all the rookies outside of Lawrence, I see the best processing, you know, in terms of quickness. I love his ball placement. I love the zip on his arm. There are some concerns about how he'll handle pressure in the pocket, etc., how he's going to handle that. But I like what I see more of him on film than the other 2 quarterbacks, you know, Lance and Wilson. So I'd be more willing to take him as a number 2. And in a dynasty league, he's my second quarterback off the board. You know, Andy Dalton, we saw what he did in Dallas last year with good weapons. You know, I didn't think that he was going to be a number 1. And, you know, the Bears fans just would have been going through a major depression this year if Andy Dalton was their number 1. You know, we heard all the excuses for Andy Dalton about why he didn't win a playoff game, everything around him, but we saw last year he was part of the problem. You know, it's a team sport. A good quarterback elevates everybody else around them. Andy Dalton never did that.
I agree. I think it's a matter of time. I would say this: if you asked me to put money down, I would say Andy Dalton starts for the Bears week 1. I will say Justin Fields is the Bears starting quarterback by week 4 or week 5.
I say week 5.
So
I'm right there with you.
Right there. Justin Fields will be running the show. Now, what about Mac Jones? Will Mac Jones eventually take over for Cam Newton in New England?
Could happen as soon as this year. I think Cam will open the season as a starter. But Mac Jones to me doesn't excite me. He's a quarterback too, I think, in Dynasty. He's a distributor and he's got to have the right pieces around him. I think he can be a steady NFL quarterback and is never going to excite anybody fantasy wise. Maybe he could be Jared Goff when he had some nice weapons around him. That sort of comparable fantasy wise, where had some good games, etc. But the pieces aren't right around him in New England right now. I think they've built the offense a little bit more. Cam Newton has his own skill set where he can where he could succeed. Whereas I feel Mac Jones is more of a very tall point guard and a facilitator, never going to excite me in any sort of format.
I was going to say Trent Dilfer. That was my comp. Trent Dilfer. When you say a distributor, I envision Trent Dilfer. So for you to say Jared Goff, to me, might actually be an upgrade than mine with Trent Dilfer.
Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl.
Trent Dilfer was the quarterback on a Super Bowl winning team. Get that right.
He got a ring.
But he did not win that Super Bowl.
He didn't win a Super Bowl.
He was the quarterback on a Super Bowl winning team. Let's phrase that the right way, my friend.
Well, he's taller. I think he's taller than Dilfer was.
Okay, but he's just he's a Alex Smith. What about an Alex Smith comp for Mac Jones?
I think Alex Smith was a little bit more dynamic when he was in his prime.
Okay,
maybe more than Andy Dalton, actually.
Either way, fantasy value odds are going to be limited. And you said it right now. Scott, let's be honest, that New England offense is not exactly exploding with weapons around whoever is that quarterback. They brought in Jonnu Smith. Okay, they added the double tight end set, but nonetheless, the wide receivers, the running back is a committee situation. There's not that much to get excited about in New England.
Yeah, I think maybe the ceiling for him is Kirk Cousins.
If he gives Kirk Cousins, that would be an outperforming what I expected from Mac Jones. Kirk Cousins, he doesn't win the big one, but at the end of the season, he has some decent numbers. He won't
Nobody
win the
wants
big one, though.
To start him in fantasy football, though. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, he's a stream option in reality.
Yeah, at best.
At best. Let's slide over to the running back position. And Scott, did any pick annoy you more? Because I know it drove me nuts. Of Travis Etienne going to the Jaguars and watching my James Robinson stock completely collapse. All right. Devastating. How do we shake? And then they come out and say, well, Robinson's going to be, this is even worse, I thought. Robinson is going to be part of the 1-2 punch with Carlos Hyde. I want to go crazy just hearing Carlos Hyde's name in the mix. And then Etienne is going to be a running back in space, a third down guy. Scott, this has the potential of destroying value all across that Jaguars backfield.
It does, but I'm not really factoring Carlos Hyde in the equation. If there's a three-way split there during a game, I would say 40, 45, 45, 10% there. James Robinson's not going away because he rushed for 1,400. He got over 1,400 yards from scrimmage last year. But, I think what they want to do here is they want to have one running back on the inside and the other perimeter. You being a Giants guy, Low Thunder and Liking, Tiki Barber, Brandon Jacobs. One guy operating on the perimeter, the other banging on the inside, scoring touchdowns. So to me, Travis, neither one of them is going to be more than a flex fantasy-wise initially. James Robinson will be physical. He'll have the most touchdowns. Travis Etienne can score from anywhere on the field. He'll catch passes out of the backfield. 1 week, you'll see James Robinson rushing for 2 touchdowns. The next week, you'll see a 55-yard touchdown from scrimmage for Travis Etienne. Neither will be trustworthy. They're the kind of fantasy players who are going to drive you crazy because you won't be able to predict when that good game is going to come. And they're the type of players who'd be like, I should have started them, but you're not going to be able to predict it on a week-to-week basis. You're going to have to dig deep to take a look at the matchup there okay, are they going to run the ball against this team, etc. But even then, you might not know.
The reality is by ETN going to the Jaguars instead of a different team, you lost what should be two rock solid RB2s have now both been dropped into RB3s for the exact reasons you just gave. They will be completely untrustworthy. There are a lot of people out there who in keeper, not dynasty, but keeper formats had James Robinson as a potential keeper. To me, it takes him off the board. I don't want to keep or protect a running back who, like Scott said, is at best a flex, who is going to be unpredictable week in and week out, depending on game planning and Urban Meyer's, whimsical decisions on who's going to get the ball on what play. There's going to be very little consistency. And the shame of it all is, Scott, is James Robinson, in my opinion, showed himself to be a 3-down back last year. He showed himself capable of catching the ball out of the backfield. This was, forget about even analyzing the draft, but nonetheless, a pick that potentially the Jaguars really didn't need right away, right? Because Robinson, nobody expected the Jaguars to go there. If you said James Robinson's my guy for 300 touches, nobody would have been surprised by that.
Yeah, we at the draft time was saying, okay, let's draft Devine and Zigbo instead, because once they got rid of Leonard Fournette, it was really a crapshoot to see who would do. But they don't want to overwork James Robinson. They rode James Robinson very hard last year, so they don't want to do that again. They like what they're doing from a pure football perspective. Two backs that complement each other, maybe a little third to mix in, for a little change of pace there with Carlos Hyde, and they keep defenses off balance. It's good for them NFL-wise. It's not good for us fantasy-wise. But Urban Meyer doesn't care about our fantasy football teams.
That is very true. Now, speaking of our team, Najee Harris goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Should have a clear path to playing time in Pittsburgh. I know Benny Snell is there, but they don't draft him in the first round to have him be a Benny Snell backup. That's for sure. Najee Harris, I saw it in the SiriusXM pre-draft, too early draft. He went as running back 17 overall, but that still was in the second round. So Najee Harris, are you comfortable with him as the 17th running back, 18th running back off the board being drafted as an RB2?
Yeah, I mean, he's not in my top 15 because he's a rookie. I'm seeing some early drafts where he's going into the first round, early the second, and that's too early for me. And a lot of fantasy players, they fall in love with talent, upside, and opportunity, but that's not what it's all about. This guy is still a rookie. And look, last year, there's a caveat last year, we had the pandemic. Guys got off to much slower starts than usual, but rookies tend to start slow. The Najee Harris, I'm not saying it can't happen, but more often than not, a running back will not hit the ground running and be a star right away. We saw a great opening week from Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Then he fell off. The year before that, when we had a full season, people were drafting Miles Sanders and David Montgomery pretty high. Miles Sanders started very slow. Montgomery was a complete disappointment throughout the year. You have to temper expectations about rookie running backs, especially Najee Harris. I like the kid. He reminds me of Marshawn Lynch in a way that Marshawn ran very low to the ground. He's got a higher base and he can catch passes, but at the point of attack and the way he created his own running room, he reminds me a little bit of Marshawn Lynch, but still, he's a rookie. They're taking time to adjust. People talk about the offensive line. He might be able to create his own running room, but I think you're going to have to give it time. Like if you're drafting him late first round, early second, expect him to be a superstar right away. I'm not saying 100% it can't happen, but I would say the odds are more likely that he won't than he will.
Yeah, I agree with you there. When you go back to last year, Clyde Edwards-Helaire came out fast, faded down the stretch. DeAndre Swift, Cam Akers struggled early on. They were kind of not playing a big role in the beginning part of the season. And that's,
with the pandemic and unusual training camp, you give them a little bit of a mulligan there. But you look back to the previous years, and rookie running backs started slow too.
Yep, absolutely. So Najee Harris will have opportunity, but like Scott said, still a rookie. Now, Javonte Williams out of North Carolina goes to Denver. Philip Lindsay no longer there. Melvin Gordon is there. And listen, this Denver offense, they figure out who their quarterback is. It's a strong offense. There's no denying that. Young players all around. Okay. Javonte Williams, is he a Mel Gordon handcuff? Or do you think as the season goes on, Williams can establish some standalone value?
I think there's going to be a timeshare there. I think, that's what Denver's been looking to do. It's never been a pure lead back. But the thing is that this is Melvin Gordon's final year of the contract. So Javonte Williams would probably be the lead running back by 2022. So that's why you're seeing him in very often a lot of cases. He is the third running back off the board in a lot of dynasty drafts.
Interesting. Could you see Williams going before in a dynasty, before Etienne or Najee Harris?
No.
No.
Because some people rated Harris as the best running back coming out. He has the most big play upside. And Harris is the best combination of talent and opportunity right out of the gate.
Fair enough. Now, what about the situation in San Francisco? Right? You still have Jeff Wilson there. You still have, I'm drawing a complete blank.
Raheem Mostert.
And then they draft Trey Sermon out of Ohio State. I mean, that has all the makings of a way too crowded backfield, Scott.
Yeah, and I'm not looking forward to the headlines that, when he plays well on a given week, it's going to say Sunday Sermon. I already see that coming. But it is a crowded backfield. They do like Jeff Wilson, but I think ultimately they don't want him to be a lead back. We know Kyle Shanahan likes to play committee. Raheem Mostert is the one who can explode and score from anywhere on the field. But San Francisco running backs worry me. I saw Trey Sermon go in my Superflex Dynasty round 2, pick 1, and I look at him on film. He's a solid back. To me, he's not outstanding. He's got good vision, knows how to hit the hole, but not overly special, I don't think, on film. But some guys blossom more at the pro level, so we'll see there. But to me, San Francisco running backs are very dangerous because I think Shanahan really wants to play that hot hand committee thing. Some of his guys get banged up. Mostert gets banged up. Wilson gets banged up. And I think it's the style of play. The way that the offense, they type of run, exposes running backs to big hits in the open field. So San Francisco running backs, I always temper my enthusiasm. Last year, I loved Raheem Mostert because I felt he was a big play waiting to happen from anywhere on the field, but he just couldn't stay healthy. So San Francisco, I don't go there for running backs.
Now, Michael Carter out of North Carolina goes to the Jets. Now, you talk about an opportunity. Other than Najee Harris, his may be the best of the bunch. Because right now, at the top of the depth chart for the New York Jets is Tevin Coleman. Michael Carter is in a terrific spot, even as a third down back with a rookie quarterback, to accumulate receptions and have the opportunity to be on the field quite a bit. I saw him go relatively early in that SiriusXM draft for a fourth round pick. I believe he went round 6 or round 7 in that draft. Could he conceivably be the Jets running back to roster this year for fantasy football?
I don't see why not. He was actually the third running back off the board in my FFPC Superflex Dynasty draft because there's opportunity, there's versatility. I don't think he's a pure feature back, but I think he could be a 1A to somebody else's 1B. And I like it. There's going to be opportunity there. It's a rebuilding team. We saw LaMichael Pirine was nothing special. We know Tevin Coleman's nothing special. Maybe Coleman's always had a nose for the goal line, so maybe he can be that goal line back for the Jets. And up until last year, goal line back for the Jets. What did that mean? But
didn't mean much.
Yeah, it didn't mean much. But maybe it can mean a little bit more this year. Combination of Coleman, if he can stay healthy, he's already had trouble with that, and Michael Carter. I think Carter's got some flex potential right out of the gate with a little bit of upside, and I don't think he's going to be a spectacular fantasy running back, but I think he can be respectable and sometimes outstanding.
Nice flex option, bye week fill-in. Definitely somebody though to try to get on your roster on draft day. And finally, Scott, a lot of people expected the Atlanta Falcons to do something at running back on draft night. They didn't. They signed Mike Davis, who I know you've loved back from his Seattle days. you loved Mike Davis. He's now the top of the depth chart for the Atlanta Falcons, but they pick up undrafted free agent Javian Hawkins. Is this James Robinson? Is this another year of James Robinson? Is he another Philip Lindsay? What do you think of Javian Hawkins going to Atlanta?
I don't think it's James Robinson because they had to cut Leonard Fournette. I think they didn't draft a running back because they said, we have our guy. Mike Davis in 2018 had an opportunity to fill in for Chris Carson and Rashad Penny. And, he had some really good games, especially as a receiver. Last year, he started 12 games. He gave you good fantasy numbers, only averaged 3.9 yards per carry. But he caught passes out of the backfield and showed that he could score touchdowns. He had 10 from scrimmage. This is a powerful offense. He's going to be a finisher near the goal line. You could see 12, 13 touchdowns from scrimmage from Mike Davis. By not drafting a running back at all, they said, we have our guy in-house, and that's Mike Davis. Mike Davis has good vision. He gets to the second level. He's got quick feet. He's not spectacular, but he's very, very serviceable. He can be a solid fantasy running back, too. He's taken advantage of every opportunity that's been handed him, and now he has the opportunity finally to start here, and he could be a decent number fantasy 2 running back. Mike Davis has got no respect because 4th-round pick, waived by the Niners, etc. Back up with the Seahawks, the Bears. They signed him. Then they got rid of him because they drafted Montgomery. But right now, Atlanta says he's our man. So he's a running back too. As far as Hawkins goes, he's got to prove himself in the preseason. I think some people will look at Hawkins and say, Mike Davis, he's nothing. But he's the lead running back until further notice.
Real quick, before we hit break, Travis Etienne, James Robinson, or Mike Davis, who are you drafting?
Not Robinson. Etienne's got a lot of upside, but the touches are going to be inconsistent. I know he's the more exciting pick, but I'd probably go with Mike Davis if both of them were on the board. I know he's got the workload.
Full PPR, I agree with you.
A lot of people weren't agreeing with me because they're just going to look at the upside. But I'm talking about the context of opportunity.
Full PPR, Mike Davis has a chance for 4 or 5 catches a game. PPR,
he's had 7 and 8 touchdown games, several of them. I mean, reception games, several of them last year.
Najee Harris or Mike Davis?
Oh, Najee Harris. Okay. I think he can catch passes out of the backfield. There's more talent there. I think Davis might perhaps outperform him early, but I think I got to take Harris. It's just with Harris, I don't want to overdraft him. He's probably about my 15th, 16th running back. Davis is a few notches below that.
Fair enough. All right. No, I agree with you. I definitely take him over the Jaguars situation or any of the other rookie running backs. All right, everybody. When we return, we're going to take a look at some wide receivers, some tight ends coming out in that draft, where they landed, and what Scott thinks their fantasy value will be. This is the King and Pocket Aces, brought to you by rotoballer.com. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody, to the King and Pocket Aces. Okay, second half action underway. Scott Engel, the King, Pocket Aces, Anthony Aniano here. Guys, you heard us talk quarterbacks. You heard us talk the rookie running backs. Now time to break down some of these rookie wide receivers. And it was a deep wide receiver class, Scott. Wide receivers went early. They continued going through round 3, round 4. And players, even in round 3, round 4, having value potentially this year and certainly having value in dynasty formats in rookie-only drafts. So let's dive right into it and dive into those early first-round picks. Jamar Chase goes to Cincinnati. Now, you can argue it was the wrong pick football-wise for Cincinnati. Maybe they should have gone a lineman. Jalen Waddle goes to Miami. I'm excited about that. And Devonta Smith, the Eagles trade up to get Devonta Smith, jump in front of the Giants to get him. When you look at those 3 wide receivers, does anyone stand out in a dynasty or even in a 12-team redraft as the guy you want on your roster?
It's obviously Jamar Chase. He's
Is
the
it
best.
obvious though? You say that as if the other two players are you and I. That it's obviously Jamar Chase.
It's obvious because those other guys are big play threats, but he also has the size too. He has more size than the other top receivers, and he could become a number one receiver in the NFL. He's got size, he's got speed, he's got everything. He can high point the ball, he can separate from defensive backs. Plus, he's going into a situation where he knows his quarterback in Joe Burrow. To me, he went number 6 off the board in my FFP Superflex Dynasty, and I'm fine with that. There, once the top quarterbacks and Kyle Pitts were gone, Jamar and the very top running backs, I actually believe he went 7th after Najee Harris. I'm good with that. And if you want to draft in a FFPC league, Superflex Dynasty or whatever, rotoballer.com/FFPC, and you'll get a built-in discount on your first team.
When you look at the Bengal wide receiver situation, right? Tyler Boyd is still there. T. Higgins was a second-round pick last year, and Jamar Chase. In a 12-team redraft, forget about a rookie only, forget about a dynasty. You and I, 12-team redraft, nobody's being kept. For this upcoming season, is Jamar Chase still the Bengal wide receiver you want?
I like Tyler Boyd for more volume. I think T. Higgins people saying he's going to be a downfield guy. I think he's more than that. It makes me like Joe Burrow a lot as even more of a sleeper this year to maybe finish as a top 6 fantasy quarterback. I like Joe Burrow that much with his weaponry. I think Chase has the most upside, but I think Boyd is the safest pick.
Interesting. Okay, fair enough. Now, Miami has a veteran wide receiver there, Devonta Parker, who's had a pretty good year the last 2 years, finally came on. Well, they had another weapon for Tua as well with Jalen Waddle. Now, you like Chase number 1, but how do you view Jalen Waddle? Forget about Dynasty. I think everybody likes him Dynasty-wise. How do you like him this season, though? Is he a wide receiver 3? Is he a wide receiver 4? Does he have a chance to have an impact, in your opinion, this season in a redraft?
I think he starts out as a 4 with wide receiver 3 possibilities. I think it's a nice fit for Tua, who doesn't, he's not a deep zinger like some of these other quarterbacks, but this is a guy who could really explode after the catch, catch and run, separating from defensive backs, giving him something downfield, maybe about 10, 15 yards and then taking after catch. They've surrounded Tua with the right compliments. You have Devontae Parker, who can win jump balls and get open in the end zone, and then you have this rookie Waddle, who can really challenge defenses after the catch and downfield. He's an upside play. In dynasty leagues, I like him. I like him better, than a lot of other receivers. I think Devonta Smith has the best opportunity. But right now, it's a little bit crowded in that receiving room. But I do like him as a wide receiver 4 with some upside. This is, like I said with Burrow, though, it makes Tua something of a sleeper to me because I think he's going to have a better. The reporters in Miami really don't like the Dolphins' ground game, but they didn't draft anybody. But Gaskin gives nice support. I think the Dolphins are surrounding Tua with the right personnel. And, this team has a culture of winning that they're building for the first time in a very, very long time. So there's going to be successful players on the Dolphins. Sometimes you look at more just talent, opportunity, etc. You look at the team itself. The Dolphins are pushing, I think, to being a true contender within the next 2 or 3 years, and that's going to boost Waddle year to year to year.
Did Devonta Smith, of all the first-round wide receivers, walk into the best opportunity in terms of immediately being the go-to guy for his quarterback?
I think yes and no. Yes, because he's instantly the most talented wide receiver on the roster. No, because then he's going to get the most defensive attention. And that's going to, I think, slow his ascension. So I think you'll have to be patient with him. I think Jalen Hurts might be a bust this year. He just doesn't have enough around him and he's not as talented as Lamar Jackson, where he could not have the right weapons and wide receiver and have an MVP year. Devonta Smith's going to take time to develop. Jalen Rager's still developing. You have Dallas Goedert, but what else do you really have? The supporting cast is not great, and defenses are going to be able to defend Jalen Hurts easier out of the gate. But you're asking me about the receiver. I think he's going to be boom or bust as a rookie. You're going to see some big plays, but I don't think you'll be able to trust him.
Fair enough. Now, speaking of trust, Kadarius Toney goes to the Giants after trading down. Giants, 4 deep at wide receiver. All right, Darius Slayton, Sterling Shepard. They spend big money on Kenny Galladay, and now Kadarius Toney is there. I don't like it. As a Giant fan, fantasy-wise, I just don't like it. There's no value for me in Kadarius Toney in a redraft at all. First, it means I'm trusting Daniel Jones. And secondly, I've got 4 wide receivers or 3 wide receivers that Toney has to beat out, 4 if you include Evan Ingram, to get touches. To me, Dynasty, maybe round 2, but I can't trust it in a redraft. No, thank you.
These kind of receivers, I think the Giants overdrafted Toney. When you look at what the Seahawks and the Rams got later on with Eskridge, etc., these are gadget-type guys. They do threaten defenses, but they're Percy Harvin / Tavon Austin upside. The upside is Percy Harvin, and the bust side is Tavon Austin, and I really don't want these kind of guys for my fantasy team. I understand that the Giants wanted to get a diverse weapon to really give something to Daniel Jones that he didn't have, and it fits from the NFL perspective. Same thing with Eskridge. People asking me about him in Seattle. He gives him a unique type weapon. Same thing with the Giants. But this is not something I want for my fantasy team. If the ceiling is Percy Harvin, we were never able to trust Percy Harvin on a week-to-week basis when he was healthy. I think the Giants overdrafted him. The fit is good. I think they reached for where they got him, though. And fantasy-wise, these 3rd, 4th wide receivers who, also on jet sweeps, etc. If I want a jet sweep receiver, give me Brandon Ayuk. He's gonna have a lot more possibilities as a consistent receiver. These gadget types, really don't do anything for me in fantasy football.
Rashad Bateman lands in the Baltimore. Hollywood Brown has not yet emerged as the wide receiver 1 you thought he would. Does Bateman have an opportunity to become the go-to wide receiver for Lamar Jackson?
I love Rashad Bateman. I think this is a great pick. People saying, he landed in the wrong situation because they don't throw the ball. Well, the Ravens know they don't throw the ball enough. This is why they drafted a guy to change the outlook. He can challenge defenses at every level. It might be a little overwhelmed as a rookie, but I love him as a dynasty pick. This is going to be Lamar Jackson's number 1. Marquise Brown was never a number 1. Somebody I would draft definitely as a wide receiver 4 in a seasonal league. But, this guy can also help Lamar Jackson because you're opening up things more downfield. It gives Jackson more room to run. Jackson can be a good thrower. He just needs more weapons. Sammy Watkins, how I feel, will command a lot of defensive attention. Won't make enough plays until the playoffs. This is one of my favorite receivers from a dynasty perspective. And I think in a seasonal perspective, I think right away, he's going to show us something to by way of year 2. He's going to be drafted, I think, as maybe a wide receiver 2 in fantasy.
Wow, that's high praise for Bateman landing with the Ravens. Another player who went in round 2, Elijah Moore, goes to the Jets. And people love the Jets draft around here. Wilson, they took the offensive tackle in round 1, and then they get Elijah Moore. Speculation that Jamison Crowder could be cut to save a little bit of money because now Elijah Moore is there with Denzel Mims and Corey Davis. So if that were to happen, Elijah Moore has the potential to be the slot guy from day 1 for the rookie quarterback. But the question becomes, can we trust a rookie wide receiver with the rookie quarterback, with 1 rookie offensive tackle, a second-year player at the other offensive tackle, and potentially in the rookie in the backfield? Dynasty-wise, you might say, okay, I'm excited about this Jets offense. But for 2021, I use that word rookie an awful lot to kind of, gather up a whole lot of trust.
You know what Lenny Melnick says, right? A rookie
A
is a
rookie
rookie
is
is
a
a
rookie
rookie.
is a rookie.
Right. It applies to some people, not all of them. Let me tell you something. Okay, kiddo? But this guy's going to be a slot receiver, and he's got a lot of upside. I think, there's going to be more NFL interest and fantasy interest. I don't know if I draft him in the seasonal league at all. The Jets don't have a true number one wide receiver. Like I said, you got Corey Davis. I think Denzel Mims operates as this guy. He might be a third receiver in the NFL, and I'm not investing any draft capital in the seasonal league. Great pick for the Jets in terms of what they want to do in terms of rebuilding and putting the talent around their new quarterback, what they didn't do with their old quarterback. So, you commend Joe Douglas for that. But fantasy-wise, not a lot of interest.
What about Rondale Moore with Arizona? I mean,
Yeah,
you still got the same situation, right? Christian Kirk, DeAndre Hopkins. It's another situation where he's at best the third wide receiver on the team.
Yeah, I think that's what happens initially, although I think, Christian Kirk's been a disappointment. So I think there's more long-term potential for him. I don't want him in a seasonal league, but I can see some upside in Dynasty.
Now, Scott, before we went on the show, I asked you, are there any other wide receivers you like and where they landed? And the first player you listed was Amon-Ra St. Brown, a fourth-round pick who lands with the Detroit Lions. Is this, you like his skill set, B, you like his landing spot, or C, all of the above?
I think it's all of the above. This is a guy that can make an immediate impact. It's kind of tough for a fourth-round pick, though. He was taken in the fourth round, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of tough for a fourth-round pick to make an immediate impact. I'd be looking for Quinton Cephas to step up as a sleeper there. I like Quinton Cephas a lot, actually, as a sleeper this year. That's going to be a terrible offense. I argue with this about Mike Florio all the time. We can talk about another show. I think DeAndre Swift is going to bust because he's going to have a big X on his chest from the whole lack of playmakers around him. But, there's opportunity for St. Brown for sure here.
What about Dyami Brown going to Washington in round 3? Does he have the opportunity to be that wide receiver 2 for Washington opposite Terry McLaurin?
Well, you do have Curtis Samuel there, but Curtis Samuel has never proven at the NFL that he can be more than a third receiver. Ryan Fitzpatrick will gun the ball a lot. We still have to wait and see what kind of quarterback Heineke could be if he can threaten him at all. But I think eventually he's drawing comparisons to Terry McLaurin already. And if they have two of those types, I think there's some upside there. I think he's a nice second-round pick in Dynasty and maybe a late rounder wide receiver 4 or 5 in seasonal leagues.
Interesting. Now, the Packers, listen, it's tough. Let's be honest. Right now, it's tough to break down Green Bay because it all revolves around Aaron Rodgers, and it all changes if the Packers do decide to move Aaron Rodgers. Nonetheless, they drafted Amari Rodgers in round 3.
Rodgers to Rodgers.
Rodgers to Rodgers. We've seen the other wide receivers they've brought in to try to be the opposite playmaker to Davante Adams. There's just been a lot of inconsistency there. Amari Rodgers, let's operate as if Aaron Rodgers is going to be there. Does Amari Rodgers have immediate fantasy impact as long as Aaron Rodgers is still the quarterback of the Packers?
I think so. Al Lazard has not shown that he can step up. They didn't sign, and Al Lazard has shown maybe he can be more of a third wide receiver. Marquez Valdes-Scantling is like the new Devery Henderson. You throw him a fly pattern, etc. There are some fantasy analysts out there who cover Dynasty who've said that if we knew Rodgers was playing, that this kid could be a first-round pick in Dynasty leagues.
Wow.
He did the opportunity and the talent are meshed that well. So I was in the second round of my Superflex Dynasty League, round 2, pick 12. I actually took this kid because, we don't know what's going to happen with Rodgers. Maybe he gets traded to Denver, maybe he doesn't. But somebody's got to play quarterback even if he gets traded. And Jordan Love's got to throw to somebody despite besides Davante Adams. Obviously the upside isn't there if Rodgers signs. But if Rodgers stays, this kid's got a lot of deep sleeper value.
What about Nico Collins going to Houston in round 3? I can't help but think, with all the off the field stuff, that this Texans offense to me is just a big avoid because of just a lot of uncertainty around it.
Yeah, I think that's the case at running back. But they're gonna have to throw to somebody,
Yeah,
and
but
this
who's
kid's gonna
throwing
be
it?
what?
Who's throwing it? We won't know
It could be.
that for
It
who knows
very
how
well
long.
could be Tyrod Taylor, and Tyrod Taylor. You laugh, but we've seen him. Have a few good NFL games here and there. He's gonna have to throw to somebody. Nico Collins is somebody who can win jump balls and physical with some speed, and he's gonna have an opportunity right away. So in a dynasty league, I think he's a good end of the second round, early third round pick. The Texans are a mess, but even on teams that are a mess, unless it's a jet situation from like the last few years, somebody's got to step forward and make plays. And this kid's got the talent to do it. So, he's obviously not in that first or maybe even, second tier of receivers, but, him and Collins and Rogers, I came to the decision. We talked about it in my
Yeah.
FFPC 212 Superflex Dynasty Best Ball, Collins and Rogers, and I want to go for upside. I'm going to take Rodgers and hope Rodgers stays, and it's Rodgers to Rodgers. But Collins in the long term, if Deshaun Watson plays for that team again, or they do something quarterback there, he could easily end up being the number one wide receiver very quickly.
Fair enough. Now, speaking of number ones, slide over tight end Kyle Pitts. Atlanta Falcons draft him 4th overall, and in the SiriusXM host draft 12-team draft. Right after the NFL draft, Kyle Pitts goes as tight end 6 in a 12-team redraft. Goes before T.J. Hawkinson, before Evan Ingram, and others. I was a little surprised. People thought I was crazy for being surprised. But Kyle Pitts, without playing it down in the NFL, was being drafted as the 6th tight end off the board. Your thoughts?
Not crazy, because in other positions, you want a proven veteran, but the word proven doesn't stick at tight end. If you don't get one of those top 3, you're starting to throw darts after that. And Kyle Pitts, reminds me a lot of Shannon Sharp. Maybe he's a little bigger and thicker, but Sharp could do it all over the field and was really great after the catch. And Kyle Pitts he's very special. We heard about OJ Howard. OJ Howard didn't pan out, but this guy's more talented than OJ Howard, and he's playing with a terrific quarterback who's proven. So to me, you want to take him in the top 5. I'm not going to argue with you.
Wow, interesting. I'm actually surprised.
But throughout the flow of the draft, though, I'm not. Here's the thing, though. I'm not looking for position scarcity when I'm drafting. When I get to that point, if it's the 3rd or the 4th round, I'm not going to take Kyle Pitts because I want to take best player available, not best player available because of position scarcity. I want to do that with a more proven guy. If I'm at the end of the 1st round, Travis Kelce trumps everybody still at the position.
So, absolutely.
That's where I'll do the position scarcity sort of thing. Maybe about Darren Waller, 3rd, 4th round, something like that. But this guy's drawing comparisons to Kelce, and that's saying a heck of a lot. That's a mouthful.
That's a big comp. Almost impossible to match up to. So it's going to be interesting to see what Kyle Pitts ends up doing for Atlanta. What about Pat Freiermuth? Goes round 2 to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, traditionally, Scott, tight ends as rookies have minimal impact, right? That's just always the case with tight ends. Even if they are 1st or 2nd round picks. Kyle Pitts, obviously the exception based on his athleticism. But here's Freiermuth, goes round 2 to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Path to playing time potentially is there. I'm not interested in a 2nd round tight end anywhere in my redraft. What about you?
No, but in Dynasty, I think he's very interesting, especially places like the FFPC where you get 1.5 points for a tight end reception. Ebron is not shown to be anything more than a tight end specialist at the goal line. Maybe a goal line back, if you will, plays tight end. What's the difference between him and Jimmy Graham at this point of his career?
Right.
They just throw him with 3 yards out. This guy can challenge defenses at every level, And I believe by 2002, he's going to challenge to be a 2022. He's, I don't think 2002, unless we're getting a time machine,
There
that,
you go.
this guy can be, in 2 years, he can be a starting fantasy tight end.
All right, one more tight end, and this one surprised me. I asked you any other tight ends, and you mentioned the Texans round 5 pick, Brevin Jordan. Why?
Well, there's opportunity there. We talked about what a mess the Houston offense is, actually. And, the kid's very raw. The blocking is not too good. So, might not be able to beat out Jordan Akins, but I do like him for the dynasty perspective. Very raw prospect, but very talented. Not seasonal, but somebody in dynasty within the 4th round of a dynasty draft. I think you have to take a crack.
All right, Scott, one more question before we wrap up for the day. You're the first pick, not a super flex. 12-team, dynasty format, rookie draft, not super flex. You got the first pick. Who are you taking?
I'm a homer. I'm going to take Dwayne Eskridge. No, I'm going to take Najee Harris, of course.
Super flex, you're the 2nd pick in the draft. Because I do think in a super flex, and correct me if I'm wrong, super flex, I think we can agree Trevor Lawrence would go number 1.
Yes.
2nd pick in the draft. Who are you taking?
Justin Fields.
Really?
Yes. I told you he's my number 2 quarterback in this class.
You told me number 2. I didn't think he'd be your number 2 overall. So not only is Fields your number 2, he's your number 2 overall, huh?
Yep.
Although quarterback,
I would think about it, for a while. Kyle Pitts in the FFPC, 1.5 for a tight end, but I'd probably still go for Fields.
Interesting. And then number 3, would you continue quarterbacks? Or after those first 2, are you staying away from the Lances, the Wilsons?
It depends on my need. It depends on my team. What if I have 2 quarterbacks that I'm happy with? What if I have Justin Herbert and Lamar Jackson? I'm going to go Kyle Pitts. But if I need a quarterback, then I'm probably going to go Wilson, because I expect him to make a quicker impact.
Interesting. All right, fair enough. Najee Harris, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields in a super flex league. All right, everybody. Want to remind you all, head over to rotoballer.com. Check it all out. Main page, premium package, expert chats, NFL, MLB, NBA, PGA. Scott and Sean Engel do a great job on the NASCAR, esports, you name it. Sign up for the premium package. Betting now, sports betting on there. Premium package, promo code KING, promo code ACES. Whoever your favorite of the King and Pocket Aces is, you can tell them we sent you. And as always, guys, whether it's DFS or season long, Scott and I will be back next week. We're going to bring baseball back into the show. We'll keep talking football. Scott's giving me the 1 second. What is it, Scotty?
You said you try to decide who's your favorite. Maybe we should get a promo code if people like us equally. We can talk to them about it. Give a promo code called Cases.
Cases. I like that.
Bad uncle jokes here on the King and Pocket Aces.
Well done. All right, everybody. This has been fun. Scott, you're the best. I love you. Stay smart. Stay safe. We'll see you next time on the King and Pocket Aces, brought to you by rotoballer.com. Bye, folks.